We are live. Hello, everybody.
Hi
How are you?
everyone. Hi. Thanks for joining us today for our live Q&A on how to build your online presence and brand awareness. My name's Domino. I'm here from Cotton on Manchester. We're a Manchester arts company. Our ethos is to promote and keep everyone up to date with Manchester's creative art scene. We aim to be a one-stop shop for everything that is art in Manchester. I'm here with David. David is a digital marketer with over 5 years' experience. David is also the founder of EscapeArt Magazine, which is an online magazine which explores some of art's trickiest topics.
Yeah, we just
So,
thought it might be quite interesting to do something in these trying times and offer value, pull all the stuff that we know together, and see how we can help you start a conversation. Have you guys ask us some questions, and we'll try our best to answer and provide as much value as we can.
yeah, exactly. We'll be discussing and presenting ways to build your online presence, as we say, as we think at the moment this is like really relevant. It's as you can imagine, things are a little bit tricky at the moment with coronavirus. It's totally changed how everyone works and how everyone has to adapt with it. With so many events and exhibitions being cancelled, a lot of artists and creatives have found themselves a little bit lost with work being planned or postponed, or some people are out of work altogether. So it's a big challenge for everyone to adapt to these new changes. Fingers crossed things will get better soon. But in the meantime, let's have a look at some positive things that we can do. So as I said, we thought that now would be a great time to talk about your online presence because it's more important now than ever with so many people looking to get more information online and learn things online that now is really an important time to think about your brand and your online presence and how you can grow that.
Yeah. Um, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat on YouTube. We're gonna go through everything that piles up on there at the end. But to start off, let's talk a little bit about the marketing side of brand awareness, and I'll share with you a little bit about what I learned over the years while I've been doing this. Um, I come from a background of just creative marketing. I've done freelancing and I work with a few art galleries, some curators, some dealers. And I learned a lot about the gap that exists between the artist and the art world, basically. The world is, like Domino mentioned, is quite unstable economically speaking because of what's happening in the world. And a lot of small and independent businesses are closing down or are forced and have a lot of financial stress at the moment. They have to make some tough cuts to pivot a little bit in their strategy, and it is a very doubtful time, and it's very stressful. But you should have the mindset of perseverance and try to make the best out of a bad situation. I know it's kind of bad to say this, but think of it this way. A lot of the competition that you're against, if you're trying to build up your brand as an artist, make more sales, make it into the art world or whatever you're trying to do, we're excited to know what you're trying to do in the comments. A lot of that competition is going away, and this is basically your time to shine. So the marketing side, no matter what area you operate in, be it art, be it education, be it marketing basically. In digital marketing, basically, it all starts with strategy, and it's very similar strategy across the board. And the number one step to any strategy is to find your strength, especially as an artist. As an artist, that's quite easy to do because you have a style, you have a medium, you are comfortable in an area of art that you've been practicing since you were a kid, maybe. So let's say I'm going to work with an example for this presentation because it's just easier to learn and teach using examples. Let's say you're a digital painter. You tried to paint in Photoshop using a graphic tablet, which is those tablets that you can take a pen and, like one of the biggest brands is Wacom, and basically draw inside Photoshop. You tried it, but doesn't really work for you. So you've been experimenting in Photoshop and you found out that you're really good in taking shapes, building layout, and going through the different things that Photoshop allows you to do that is not painting. So that is your strength. The next step would be for you to find your niche. And what I mean by niche is taking your strength and bringing it to a target audience. All these are keywords that you should write down at some point because if you type them in Google, you're going to find a lot of resources that will help you develop this strategy, these first steps that I'm walking you through now. So once you find your niche, your target audience, your next goal is to try to create the bridge between your strength, the area you're comfortable in, the thing that you enjoy, and that target audience in order to maybe get some commissions, maybe build up a portfolio that you can show to some amazing clients that you want to work with. And this will help you in the long run. Let's look at a few examples now of how you actually uh, like how do you know you found your niche, you presented your strength. The first example I really like because from the first moment I land on his portfolio, I can understand exactly what he's good at, what his strength is, and maybe imagine how this artist could actually help me. So I can see he's a digital illustrator. He has this neon pop style. Immediately I understand that he likes sketching the detail, and I can already imagine a few projects where this artist could help me, like for example, a comic book. If I wanted him to design me a website or to help me create, let's say, business card, a business card he could probably do, and the creative assets of a website he could probably do, but I would find somebody that presents their portfolio in a different way if I wanted to hire that kind of person. Example two is a completely different medium. It's I think it's something, a combination, a mixed media between oil and acrylics. But immediately I can tell what this artist is really good at and what their area of comfort is. They like doing this kind of surrealist, abstract paintings. They like fine art. So if I wanted this artist to design a website for me, I wouldn't commission them for that because I understand what their niche is. I understand the kind of audience they're trying to connect with, and I am not that kind of audience. The next example is a little bit more interesting. I like the visual structure of it. It has blues and greens, and it kind of works together. So if you're in Instagram and I land on this on this profile, I enjoy it, but I don't necessarily understand what this artist or person on Instagram has to offer to me as their consumer or their viewer. Like the first picture, I can see some crayons there, then there's some paint in the middle picture on the top row, then there's some toys, and then I think they're just playing with colors with some washing liquid packets, maybe. I'm not exactly sure. So already I feel like this person is not the right type for me, no matter what my project is, because I don't have a clear idea of what they have to offer, what their niche is, what is the audience they're trying to connect, who is the audience they're trying to connect with, and how I would benefit by collaborating with them. Example number four is again quite tricky to understand because let's go on with this example that I am looking for somebody to commission to build a website for me and create the graphic layout and put the blocks together. I don't really understand from the portfolio I'm looking at what they are good at. The, they have a little bit of fine art, they have a little bit of photography, maybe some street art. I'm not exactly sure if this is their art or if they just took something from the internet. They do say on Instagram that they're an art account and they're looking for commissions, but I'm not exactly sure how they're going to be able to help me. I need focus from them. I need them to show me um, the examples of work that tell me that they're the best person to help me in my project as a potential client. So now that we saw those examples, we can start understanding what actually a brand is and how it is created. You find your strength, you find your niche, you combine them, and that creates the brand. So the first two examples that I went through, the illustrator and the fine artist, had a clear brand. I understood their vision. I understood the things that they want to create and that their area of comfort, what they want to do, the kind of people they want to work with. Like the second person that was doing the abstract surrealist type of work, they probably want to work with galleries or somebody that presents them, puts their artwork online, sells themselves original artworks, perhaps something like that. The first artist, on the other hand, might want to work with prints, digital prints, and sell a bigger volume. They might want to work with comic book creators or somebody that just wants some illustrations or on their website or on their whatever it is that their project is. So that is the brand. I need to understand what your creative vision, what you have to offer as an artist or as a creative, um, as soon as I land on your portfolio or anything that has to do with your brand. And your brand as an artist will is your name, is the art that you create. Domino will talk about this further on. So let's take a look at one strategy that I see a lot of digital marketers take. I'm not saying that this is the right one, but just hear me out for a second. So, as I said before, you find your audience, you create your brand, and then you hustle because after you have your brand, after you have your creative vision and your audience, you kind of understand where to connect the dots and you can go on and do the work and make the sales. As an artist, on the other hand, you might have a creative vision that comes from within and you don't necessarily want to um, change what you have to offer as an artist to match what the demand is in the art market. And that is what makes art so beautiful. So another strategy, another version of the same strategy is basically you create your brand first. You don't care about the audience. And this is where I'm going to refer to a pain point. When you create your brand, you should still have an idea of what is needed in the world and understand what you have to offer in the world. So let's take another example. For let's say you find very interesting the ability to combine colors and create contrast out of colors. You start understanding this and you work to develop this strength, and then once you have created your brand, people might start finding you online and being attracted by the passion that you have in sharing this vision that you have of combining colors and the contrast that they create. But while this is happening, you should be able to understand how this will help the world or your potential clients. So you should, maybe as an artist, you should combine strategy number one with strategy number two. A few marketing concepts that I want to go through are the following. There's this rising pattern interrupt, I call it. It's basically based on aggressive marketing, paid advertising that you see. You're identifying the market reflex and you're forcing yourself into. So you understand that in normal times, people tune out after work, they go on their phones, they start scrolling, and at let's say 9 p.m. after they had dinner, and that's when marketers start pushing out paid advertisement on social platforms, and that is called pattern interrupt because you find the pattern that is going on in the world, and then you try to interrupt it to force sales down people's throat, basically. I don't really agree with this marketing strategy. So the one that I want to concentrate on is inbound traffic, or what we call organic. And this relates a lot with the previous thing that I was saying, where you find your creative vision, you have the ability to combine colors and create contrast, and you're very passionate about it, and you write about it, you showcase a really beautiful portfolio, and because you're so passionate about this topic, people start picking it up organically. You don't force your way into the market because you become the expert in something that people want to learn more about because you share your passion with the world, and that is felt and it creates ripples, and that is what art is about. So that is called inbound traffic, and you should definitely ask us questions about it because it's very powerful and it's very difficult to do. but more on that later. Another thing that you should keep in mind is that yes, you can be very original in your strategy, but you shouldn't reinvent the wheel. If something was done before, and there's many things that were done before, you should copy them and try to implement them under your own brand and market yourself and create your online presence in that way. So look at people that are in your niche or they're trying to communicate with the audience that you're trying to communicate with and see the strategies that work for them. And you can do that with stats. Like every platform nowadays has number of likes or number of comments. Just see the ones that are working, understand what they've been trying to do, and then implement it for yourself with an original touch, of course. Um, and then one last tip, if you are at the beginning or maybe you're a little bit lost about what your next steps should be, what I like to do personally is visualize someone you would love to become, and try to work your way backwards from there. So let's say, just for the sake of argument, that you want in the future to uh, hold a TED Talk to 10,000 people. That is the perfect moment for you into the future. It would be much easier for you to reverse engineer it backwards than try to figure out what is the first step for you to take in order to reach that TED Talk with 10,000 people. Um, so yeah, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and we're gonna go through them at the end. One last thing that I want to leave you with is that each strategy has different tools that you can use. There's different platforms, there's YouTube, there's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and so many others. Each one of these platforms has its own algorithm, and it would require you to understand what your focus and what your strategy and what your brand, niche, and audience is first in order to then actually construct and understand the algorithm and go on from there. So yeah, over to you, Domino. Um, Let me just change this to your PowerPoint.
Thank you very much. So yeah, you've raised some really good points there, which lead into what I'm going to talk about quite nicely as well. So thank you. I think on my presentation, just to give everyone a heads up, I've kind of created it as though I can send it out to you guys afterwards. So some of the beginning slides might just skip through quite quickly. But yeah, if you want us to send you our presentations after the chat, just let us know. Drop us a message and we can get them sent over to you. So following on from what David says, I think I'll start talking about how to set up your business online, how to register your business. So once you've done, as David explained, all your research and you've set up your brand and you know what your audience is, etc., it may be worth looking at registering your business online with the company house and government. The reason why this is quite important at the moment is, especially for artists and freelancers out there, the grants that are now available because of coronavirus and for those self-employed, I imagine it's a lot easier to get those grants if you are already set up with the government and company house, because then they already know who you are. So that is one of the reasons why I thought it'd be nice to talk about setting your business up, registering online, and the differences between these. So freelancer and sole traders, they're pretty similar. People can be one or the other. However, freelancer doesn't necessarily suggest that someone is registered with company house, whereas if you are a sole trader, that is a registered title that you have, so you've got a legal status. However, when it comes to being a sole trader, you are personally responsible for the company's money and any losses that may come under this. Whereas this is different if you become a limited company. So for example, Cotton on Manchester is a limited company. Because of the events that we do and our future plans to rent a venue, these are quite large outgoing costs. So if for any reason, hope it doesn't happen, but for whatever reason the company goes into debt, that debt is against Cotton on Manchester alone and not as me as the person running it. So all my other loans, my mortgage, my credit rating, etc., are all unaffected. Whereas if you register as a sole trader, again, should anything happen and you become in any debts, then that debt is against you individually. So your mortgage and your loans, etc., can be affected. On a more positive note, as a sole trader, it's much easier to set up and register yourself online. It's very little paperwork involved. And at the end of the year, it's a lot easier to sort out your finances and your taxes. Whereas with a limited company like what Cotton on Manchester is, there's so much more paperwork to do. I think I've got to do an annual account statement, tax returns, and a confirmation statement as well. And that's all got to be prepared and filed with HMRC and Companies House. Basically, I have to get an accountant to do that, which obviously costs money. However, on the flip side of that, there's more potential to keep more of your money as a limited company, because rather than paying income tax, I pay corporation tax on my profits. So depending on what profits you make will depend on what tax you pay. Therefore, you get to keep more of your money that way. So in terms of how this reflects for artists, I do think a sole trader is probably the best route for you to go. But that does depend on where you wish to take your art. Say if you wanted to rent your own space, open your own gallery, etc. I think the best way to sum it up is the more higher kind of outgoings you have, then I'd suggest looking into a limited company. Whereas if your outgoings quite low and there's not a lot of risk of going into debt, then a sole trader will be absolutely fine. Let's say there's a few more points on the presentation, so I can send that to you afterwards as well as for you to look over. So I then want to go on to, going back to how to build your online presence and build up your brand awareness. And personally, for me, I think the best way to do it is by networking. And I know you're probably all thinking, like, what am I talking about? We can't network. We're stuck at home. We're on lockdown. Like, we're not allowed outside. And yeah, I totally get that. However, there are so many more online networking groups now than there were before. So some of the groups that I've personally networked in real life have moved their kind of platforms to being online so that you can network on there. For example, one of them is called Ladies, Wine and Design. So that's for all you creative ladies out there. They're a great place to meet people. They have groups all around the world, like different cities have their own website and their own groups. I've spoken at a couple of the Manchester events as Cotton on Manchester, spoken about what it means to set up a business, to be a female in the industry. And what's great about these groups is that everyone is in the creative industry. So no matter who you speak to, you're going to find someone that you'll have, something that you'll have in common with them, or someone that can help, or someone that's in the same industry as you. So yeah, and they, Ladies Wine and Design, they've created an online forum called Slack, an app on Slack, where you can have like a group conversation, and I think you can start your own topics as well. So again, it's just a really great place, just online, for you to chat about your work, get to meet new people. I was on it the other day talking about how we're going to try new makeup styles whilst we're locked at home, just give them a go. So, it doesn't even need to be, solely focused on your work and what you do. You can just start a conversation with someone, and then that will then eventually lead on perhaps to your work. And it's just about making contacts with people and just having a chat. So a similar networking group that is based online, one that isn't just female focused, is called Meetup. This is a great site. They've got a ton of different themed online meetups, and I think they're all over the country as well. So you can kind of choose, a networking group that sounds interesting to you, and they are hosting meetings via Zoom. So get on Zoom, because I think there's a lot of people using that at the moment. It's a free kind of online chat room kind of thing where you can talk to people and meet there. Another one that I've been to, which has been a really good night, is Petriculture, and again they've got different hubs worldwide. This is a platform for creatives to present their work via a series of talks. So I've been to a couple here in Manchester as well, and not only do you get to learn about the people hosting and doing the talks, you can chat to people in the audience as well. As I say, when you go to these kind of creative networking groups, everyone seems to be in the creative industry. So the more people that you get chatting to, the more connections you make, the more chance you get to talk about your work. I won't go into all of the different groups out there. I just wanted to cover a few to kind of show you that there is a huge range out there, free ones and paid for ones, and show you how there is more being added online as well. So you can still do your networking online whilst we're in lockdown. Another thing is us here at Cotton On Manchester. So as we were talking about adapting to the changes that we're going through now, we have set up another little networking group called Looking Sketchy. So it's an online casual sketch club. Our first one will be this Thursday, 7 p.m. Again via that Zoom I mentioned before. It's just going to be a really casual meetup. We'll be giving people some drawing exercises to do. People can chat and get to know the people and keep everyone up to date with what work they're doing and such. As I say, with coronavirus and everyone being indoors, it's just the more of these kind of meetup things that you can do, the better. Really, they're the best way for you to meet people and chat to people and tell them about your work and everything. So yeah, so Looking Sketchy, Thursday, 7 p.m. And yes, that was a shameless self-plug, but hey, thought might as well tell you about it. So yeah, going back to what you as artists can be doing online to keep up your brand awareness, there's ways that you can sell your work online. Just a tip with that is make sure you take plenty of really good photographs, because obviously with it being online, it's all very flat and visual that way. So the better the photograph quality, the more chance you've got of people really relating to your work that way. I've seen loads of artists host free workshops online via YouTube, like we are, or Instagram, or doing like quick video diaries. I saw one artist do a YouTube channel where she talks through her sketchbook work on a little YouTube video diary, which I thought was a pretty good idea. And if you don't know kind of the technical side of how to do all these things, going back to the networking, when you join these groups, there'll be someone there that'll be able to help. You'll be amazed how many people want to kind of collaborate and work with other people. Like, take me and David here, for example. He's helped us set all this up. I'm not very techy, so I wouldn't have known how to do all this without his help. And, there's just that chance to meet people and learn from them, and you just help each other out. So another reason why networking events are so important is because no one else out there knows your work as well as you do. So you are the best person to talk to people about your work and talk to them passionately about what you do. Plus, genuinely, people like people. So when you meet someone, you're far more memorable and more friendly when you talk to them kind of face to face or screen to screen than you would be kind of over an email. So it's really valuable to kind of meet people and get chatting to them. That way, people are more willing to give you advice or go to your website or buy your products or contact you for something. Whatever it is that you're selling, people are more willing to buy if they know who you are. In my own personal experiences, whilst networking, I've been invited to be in people's magazines. I've been invited to talk at their events. And on those occasions, I'm then now kind of reaching and meeting new audiences and expanding my reach that way, because I've met the people in person and they've invited me to host on their platforms. And since meeting people face to face, I've now got a bigger team of volunteers and more people that want to get involved and contribute to Cotton On Manchester and help us grow. So as I say, networking is really, really valuable. I know that speaking to strangers can be a little bit daunting, but it can be a lot of fun as well. You might meet someone that you like and actually make a friendship with, or someone that you can learn from. So I just thought I'd quickly go over a couple of tips in terms of kind of getting over nerves, because that is a big, a big thing when you're trying to talk to a stranger, to get over that nerves and get out of your comfort zone. What I tend to do when going to these events is I'll go by myself, because that forces me to speak to new people rather than just the mate that I've taken with me. And what I'll do is look out for anyone else that I think is by themselves, because you can guarantee that they'll be nervous as well, and they are just hoping and waiting for someone to come over and say, "Hey, I'm Domino. I'm here by myself. I just thought I'd come and say hi." And that is literally all you need to do. Just approach someone and just say hi. And as I say, most people are friendly and will say hi back. So another tip in kind of approaching people is to get an idea of what you want to say. And one of the best kind of opening things that I find is, what do you do? It's a very simple question. Ask them about their job. And that way, as I say as well, like if you're at a creative network, the chances are they're going to have a creative job, or at least want to have a creative job. So just asking them, what do you do? will get them talking about themselves, which will relax them, and you'll then pick up things that they say that you can kind of tag onto and things that you'll have in common with them. All this talking about networking then leads me onto one of our future events. We've got the Cotton On MCR Art All Dayer coming up. The date is the 13th of June, so fingers crossed that will still be happening. But of course, we'll be watching the news carefully and checking the government guidelines for events nearer the time. But yeah, this Art All Day is going to be a huge art fair, pop-up exhibition, art workshops, and we'll be raising money for charity as well. It's free to attend, so I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that too. Networking not only gives people the chance to promote their work and their events like I'm doing here, but it also gives people a chance to get involved with these kind of things. So since networking and meeting artists, I've got more people signed up for the event. I've got more volunteers to help on the day. We've got more donations to raise money for charity. And that itself, with all the different artists and different creatives we've got there, that itself is another place for you to network and meet other people, like-minded. So yeah, I really can't wait for the Art All Day. It's just one of the ways that us at Cotton On Manchester kind of show people the amazing talent that Manchester has, and that's our main goal. So as you can see, networking is my big thing. It's a key to building up your online presence, and there's so much that you can be doing now whilst on lockdown to get your name out there. If you've got any questions on that, add it to the comments on the YouTube channel. And if you want a copy of mine or David's presentation, just drop us a message. You can follow us on at EscapeArt Magazine or at Cotton On MCR, and we'll get those sent over to you. Yeah, that's the end of my bit.
So it seems like there's a certain framework that we have to follow, which is create the brand, do the things that I was mentioning, which is find your strength, create your niche, find your brand, and then get your brand out there. You can do that online or offline. Online for the digital marketing tips that I was walking you through. But one other channel that also has kind of like an algorithm is this offline world where we network with other people and put your brand. Would you say that this world has an algorithm of its own, the similar way that Instagram and Facebook has, Domino?
Sorry, just say that again. It just cut out for a second.
So,
Just the last part, sorry.
I'm basically comparing how the real world has sort of an algorithm on its own, the same way that, for example, one quick tip, Instagram registers the amount of likes it gets for the first hour. And if that's a big volume compared to your other post, it will say that this post is better. And that's just how the algorithm works, and will push that post to other people. So would you say similar kind of patterns work in the real world?
Yeah, I do think that. I think what that links back to more is the size of the event or the size of the gallery, or what in the real world is going on. It's kind of hard to say because again, I guess it does link back to people's general awareness of what's happening, in terms of whether that's more popular than other events, but that will all link back to what happens online. So I guess it kind of all goes hand in hand. I guess the things in the real world are going to be more popular depending on how well you've advertised that online or, through other channels. So I think it's a tricky one, but yeah, it does depend on kind of how well people know about what's going on before it happens.
Yeah, the bottom line is that it's very important to have this kind of awareness. One question that keeps, so now we're transitioning in the Q&A. So if you have any questions, I see one question so far, and there have been some other questions through Instagram inbox. One of the first ones that I had is, because the world is going in such a digital direction, especially now we are seeing with COVID, are the networking events, these local ones and art galleries in general, slowly disappearing? What would you say, Domino? I have my own thoughts on that, but I would like to hear yours.
I think art galleries are changing rather than disappearing. I think I think a lot of the galleries, especially in Manchester, obviously that's the area I know well. A lot of them are Arts Council funded, and with things that are changing in terms of the European Union and everything, I'm not sure how how much longer they'll stay open if they can't get funds. If that's one of the channels they get funds by, and if they can't get those kind of funds. The big boys of the art gallery world in Manchester, I'm sure they'll be absolutely fine, but I do think the littler ones may be affected more. And I think the art galleries and what artists do online tend to be very different fields. So I spend a lot of time in the galleries doing exhibition reviews, but then those artists that I see in the galleries, I don't necessarily see as much of online, which is, I think that's quite an interesting thing to focus on, because I don't know, maybe they've got different ways of working, maybe there's different styles of art in each one, in each styles of art for what they do in exhibitions and styles for art of what they do online. I'm not sure, but I do think there is that difference there in terms of the arts of Manchester. It does seem very different in the galleries to what it seems online. So I do spend a lot of time online and looking at the artists on there. So that is a strong platform, obviously. So maybe it will start taking away from the galleries, and there's a lot more online exhibitions happening too. That's more so because of coronavirus, but that may be one of the reasons why galleries changed as well.
Yeah, I very much agree with mostly what you said. Um, I think if you have a great business model and you have this brand as an art gallery or any art platform, if things do move in a more digital way in the future, you're going to have the resources to pivot in such a way that you're going to keep up with the change that happens in the world. So I guess in conclusion, we could say that art galleries are never going to exactly die or disappear. There's always going to be the need to connect collectors and people that are interested in buying art with the actual artists. It's just that maybe the strategy is going to change in the future.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. I think as well, I mean, we've had a chat about this before about the difference in terms of people buying art online and buying it from perhaps a gallery or a or an art shop. I think they're different audiences as well. Um, we talked about how what I think is that people that buy art online tend to buy more art prints and maybe those on the cheaper end. Because with it being online, you kind of give it a bit more of a leeway of it not being exactly how you expect it to be. So you kind of feel a bit happier about, spending a little bit less money, knowing that it might not be the same. Whereas with art that you see in a gallery or in a shop, I think you are probably more willing to shed more money for those. And I think as well, it's quite important that things that are sold online again tend to be prints and tend to be kind of remakes. They're not necessarily original. So again, that's keeping the cost low, which is great for a lot of artists. That means they can, print things out and get them sent quite quickly. Whereas for the higher end stuff, the hundreds and thousands of pounds worth of art, they tend to be one off and unique. And I as an art fan and a person that does have art on their wall, I wouldn't ever buy something of hundreds of pounds worth of art online, because I'd want to see it and I'd want that connection with it and I'd want to kind of fall in love with it before I spend all that money, which I don't think you'd ever get that experience if you're looking at something online, unless you know of the art and you've already seen it and then you go online and buy it. If you're first seeing a piece of art, for the first time, I wouldn't ever buy that online.
Yeah, there's certainly this feeling of uniqueness and you being the sole collector that has that piece of work that attaches some sort of high value to it. So that's really good news to for fine artists that spend hours on producing one piece of artwork and then they can't really reproduce that and it becomes sort of limited edition. But I guess each sort of monetizing your work does have disadvantages and advantages.
Yeah, yeah, agreed.
Um, So there's another question that I've been asked quite a bit. Yes, there is the opportunity to sell artwork online, offline, through a collector, through a dealer, through a gallery. But there's also this new thing that is happening in the world called art therapy. And that is less about the product that you sell and more about the sort of vision and feeling that you give. So the people that I worked with in the past that have entered this world of art therapy, what what I know their business model being is they kind of hold these classes of guided meditation or intuitive drawing that leads out some of the stress. So you could um, model your business in such a way that you're not basing your source of income on actual products, but on sort of courses or little sessions or events that you do with a group of people that does use art as therapy. So yeah, that was a question that I had before. How do you create money out of art therapy? Because there's a lot of people starting to get interested in this because, as we can see, the world does need a little bit of therapy, and it is very good to do it through art. Have you ever had any experience with art therapy in the past?
I haven't personally, no, but I do have a question following on what you've just said. Is that something that can be done online? Can they do art therapy workshops online, via one of the channels we've discussed, YouTube or Zoom or whatever? Is that something that they can do online as well?
It's definitely like the online world kind of allows you to do all of the things that you could do in real time just without the touch. And you are going to lose a little bit of the experience of being with people and connecting on that spiritual level, especially in such a thing as art therapy. So it will lose a little bit of value, but it is still definitely doable. And I have worked with people that are nowadays probably as we speak doing it. They on Facebook, they just go live. They have people sit down on their own sort of space and they just draw together and let their mind heal through art, which is a beautiful thing. I really respect that, no matter
Yeah.
the online or offline.
Yeah, I like it. I think as well, I've seen a few artists that are doing workshops, maybe workshops they would have charged for, before lockdown that they're now doing online. Some of them have put things like donations welcome. So, because I do feel it's a bit of a tricky transition, doing stuff online, especially when so many people are trying to do that now. There is a lot of free workshops and free things out there, but at the same time, you can just add that little option for a donation, just to say thank you for the work that you've done. And that's another way you can, you can keep making some income whilst you're adapting and changing what you do in real life to something that you now do online.
I want to add a little bit about this pricing dilemma. Yes, it's very tricky to price something that is meant to heal the world because you feel a little bit like an imposter. I'm asking people to pay me for something that is should be free all over the world. But what I've noticed, I like giving a lot of free content because I work in marketing and I learn from other people, so why wouldn't I share what I learn to other people and just create a chain? And what I've noticed is that things that are free, people don't actually invest the time and the effort to learn from them. And if you buy a course or you buy an event, your space for an event that is art therapy or something like that, you kind of feel inclined to actually spend the time and the effort to get something out of it. So, in that sense, paying for something is actually a good way of receiving the value, and it shouldn't be looked down upon and frowned upon because you're an imposter and you're asking for money for something that is meant to heal the world. That money makes people take action, and
Yeah,
we can all respect that, I think.
yeah, yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
Should we
Should
go
we?
through the questions?
Yeah. Yep.
So I have one here. Would it be better to try and make your own website or use a platform like Sachiart? I have my thoughts on that. Do you want to take it or?
Um, my thought, I mean, mine are pretty straightforward. I think make your own website.
Yeah, definitely make your own website.
I think you know more about that side of things than I will, though. Well, the only advice I can give is that I use WordPress to make the Cotton On Manchester website. If you're going to sell from there, though, I think you have to upgrade to the business WordPress. because there's different like platforms. You have to go to the business one if you want to sell on there, and it costs a couple £100 a year to upgrade to the business side of things. But yeah, I'd say create your own website.
I would definitely say the same thing. Each platform again has advantages and disadvantages. Sachi Art, I believe, takes quite a big commission on each artwork that you sell. I think it's actually above 20% or even something phenomenal like that. They do offer a lot of help in marketing, and they actually send you events that you can go and attend, and which is really great for people that are just starting out and they don't have that brand awareness that we're talking about at the moment. But it is very limited in the sense of what I mentioned before, inbound traffic, organic, searchable traffic, because if you write your own website on a platform such as WordPress, which is amazing for Google searchability and visibility on search engines, if you do that, when somebody types in your name, your website is definitely going to pop out. If you type in your name on Google and you're only on things such as Sachi Art or ArtPal or whatever else, I can't think of them at the top of my head right now, it's less likely your content is going to get in front of the people that are searching for you. And you have so much more control about how you sell, how you frame your editions or whatever your artwork is when you do host it on your own website. So highly recommend working on your own website. It's quite difficult though, so you got to be careful with that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Okay, should we go to the next one?
Yeah. Do
So
you
that says,
go on? Go on.
do you have any opinions or tips for an art collective when approaching galleries or social media as a group rather than individuals? Is having a large diversity of artwork among a group of a positive? Um, I guess I think I need to know a little bit more. It depends on what you're after. If you go into a gallery as a group because you want to put an exhibition on together, um, that depends on the gallery, I think. So it's depending on the group, it's unlikely that you're going to get into Manchester Art Gallery or Home, for example, some of the bigger ones, to you know to put an exhibition on that way. Whereas if you go to some of the little galleries, I know that Lowry just did a recent one with Girl Gang Manchester, so they are a collective, a arts collective, and they approached Lowry and did a group exhibition that way. So yeah, if it's in terms of wanting to put on an exhibition, then it depends on the gallery. If it's in terms of wanting to do an event, I guess it's the same thing. It does depend on the gallery that you go into. As a social media group, have both. Just have both. I think that'll be the best way to do it. You can have an Instagram account for the group, for the collective, and you can have your own as well. That way you've got kind of your finger in a few different pies, and you've got different channels that you can work with, and your individual one can link back to the group one, and your group one can link back to your individual one. And link backs as well is another great way to get your name out there, which it's another way for Google to pick things up. I think the more link backs you have on websites, the higher it ranks. I mean, I'm not too sure. David, correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah, you basically, the more backlinks, that's what the digital
Right.
marketers call it. The more backlinks you have, the more domain authority your website has, and then whenever you are competing with a keyword on any search engine, your website is going to be on the front page if you are overpowering people in your domain authority. But to answer that question, I've recently been to Belfast to get my visa approved for America, and while I had the time, I went to the Mac in Belfast. There's an art gallery, sort of museum, that put together an exhibition for a collective. And what really impressed me was that they shared a vision, and together they put this exhibition, and each artist was complementing what the other artist was creating. They were discussing what it means to come from something about the apartheid system in America under Donald Trump it was a little bit complicated, but that kind of area. And I think if you want to be a collective and you want to propose an exhibition to an art gallery, the most important thing is to have a common vision. It doesn't matter if your artwork is very diverse, but if your vision is complemented and it works together as an entity, and this group is an entity, then there's not only that shows the passion and the vision of the vision that you share as an art collective, but it's so easy to market because you just share like it is so easy to copy for it, to describe it, to create sort of like a after movie for it to have different colors that work well together. It's just easy for marketing purposes and to brand the event because it is a common theme.
Yeah, I think you're right. Touching on that, I've been to exhibitions where they have been, um, a collective, but work not being of the same theme or of the same ilk, and that was really tricky to write a review of. It felt like I was having to write two exhibition reviews, but the branding it as one, they had it all under one title, but two very different artworks, and it kind of felt like they were trying to force links between the two of them, and I personally didn't think that it worked. I'm just one person with one opinion, but yeah, personally, I didn't think that that worked. So yeah, going on what you said is if you are going to do a group collective, definitely have an umbrella where everyone is all working to the same theme because that's really key.
And just to capitalize on this question, I think that is a great marketing strategy to have a group of people that go to a art gallery and put up an exhibition together. Not only because it allows you to get a lot of networking, because let's say Domino and I are putting up an exhibition together, her connections are becoming my connections, and my connections are becoming her connections. But whenever one of you is going to be talked about in a review or appear on a website, the other people in that art collective are going to be mentioned in one way or another as well, because you've been together in that, and that gives you that SEO backlink juice that we were talking about. It lets your brand get repeated online, and it's amazing because you might even get more gigs out of it.
Yeah,
So great strategy.
yeah, and good question.
Um, Another question that I'm getting asked a lot on Instagram is which art sells the best? And honestly, I think all art sells the best, but maybe you have different opinion than me. So, maybe you can help me with this one as well.
Yeah, no, that feels like an impossible question to answer. Art is so subjective, and what one person likes, another person's going to hate, and what one person hates, another person's going to like. There, there's no final answer to that question. It's kind of open ended. All I can say is that I think if you have a style, like you talked about earlier, knowing what your niche is, knowing what your strengths are, but you can perhaps sell that in different formats, then that gives you more chance of selling your art. So we talked before about prints and unique work. There are artists out there that will do the original painting and then they'll create prints from it. So the original painting will be thousands of pounds, but you can get a print of it for 50 quid. So that's a way of, selling your art in different formats. But in terms of what art sells best, oh no, I wouldn't know how to answer that one.
There's this concept in marketing where you take an audience that has never heard about you before, and we call that a cold audience. And what you have to do with that cold audience is warm them up, make contact with them, offer value. And the more warmed up they are, the more prone they are to actually pay attention to what you have to say, to your vision, to your products. So my advice on people that are trying to figure out what art sells the best is not ask that question. Ignore that question. Find an audience that you care about and make them care about you. And in that process, you might have to do a few things that are not exactly artsy. Like, for example, I've had people I talked to do illustrations for card games or for children's books, and that is still a form of art, and it still gets you an income as an artist. But what is important is that while you're doing that, you're going to understand the art market better. You're going to understand demand better, and you're going to understand which art sells the best by perfecting your style and making your way and navigating this complicated world of art.
Yeah. I think one question that I got asked earlier, is kind of what challenges there are in selling your art online. There are a ton. There are a ton of challenges in terms of selling your art online. But some of the key things that I think I can give advice on is, as I mentioned earlier, take really good photographs. The best photographs will, give people that chance to really see your work, do detailed shots, do close ups, do it from different angles. Like the more photographs you can take, the better. I mean, look at eBay, for example. You can go on eBay. If you can scroll through photographs, you're more likely to buy the item off eBay. It's exactly the same with art. If you can scroll through and see different photographs, that's going to help. I also think what's really key in terms of like it's after you've sold it, but the packaging. Once that person gets that artwork, include your business card, include a flyer, make sure it's packaged well, and make sure it's presented well, because it's little things like that that are going to make that person remember you and remember what they've just received. They've bought this item off you, but yeah, you're giving them all these little extra bits, and you've taken care of it because you're passionate about it. Then they're going to notice that as well, and I feel like that's going to leave a lasting impression. Um, Give as much detail online as you can about what it is you're selling. You want the size, you want the background of it, description about yourself, so that people can get to know the artist too. Just be really open, honest, give as much information as you can with good photographs, decent price. Make it, don't overprice yourself, but don't underprice yourself, which is always going to be a problem for people to know what kind of prices to sell for. But and make sure it's packaged and delivered in a nice and memorable way.
My opinion is that there is actually no challenge in selling online, because I love the online world. It's amazing on what you can do from a marketing perspective. I would say that the only challenge would be that there's quite a steep learning curve in learning all the software, all the tools, all the algorithms that I talked about, making your way through the competition and through people that are actually managing to manipulate the online world in such a way that it benefits them. I would say that that is the number one challenge. Another challenge would be that all these platforms, Google, Facebook, Instagram, they are businesses as well. They're not just there to benefit the people. So they're making it very difficult for people that want to market using their platforms, reach audience. And if you have noticed, your organic reach as a page on Instagram is very little compared to other pages. And that is because they are probably using money to get that wider reach. So that is definitely another challenge. But there's endless opportunities, and I highly recommend trying to learn everything about the online world and how to market online, because it won't only help you to make sales online, but it will help you get your brand out, get people aware of who you are as an artist or as a creative that wants to do commissions or get involved in collaborations, and that will result in higher sales and more opportunities in the offline world as well.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, as we said before, there is so much online now, so much free courses and free workshops that you can do. Again, that'll help you like grow your business online. That'll help you with marketing. That'll help you with social media. So definitely have a good look, because I think now is the best time to get those free things. Loads of people dropping prices, or doing things that were charged before, they're doing them for free. So there is so much out there in terms of free content and how to get yourself on there and get yourself online.
And you also have us. Just I am I don't see any other questions and here, but if you do have questions in the future, drop us an email, drop us a message on Instagram, and I love talking about this topic. I love sharing what I know, and Domino loves talking to people. She's amazing at networking and creating all these amazing events. And yeah, if you do have any questions, please keep them coming, because I personally learn from you, and the more questions I receive, the more things I know that I need to learn, and the more I learn, which is that's what I think life is about, is learning as much as possible.
Yeah, agreed. And give us feedback as well. Let us know what you thought of today's live chat, whether you've got things you want us to talk about, in the future. The more feedback that we get, the better that we become. And the better we become is the more that we can help you guys. So yeah, I've really loved doing it today, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it as well. But yeah, definitely get in touch and let us know what you thought.
All right, great. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Now I have to figure out how to turn this off because I've never turned this one off. All right. So
Whilst he's doing that, we're going to just smile and wave and say thanks, guys.
all right.
Bye.
I think